Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 15 of FTB Interactions. As you can see, I am in a dungeon. I wasn't initially planning on recording this, but then I realized this dungeon has some interesting blocks in it. We can get hardened glass here. I think you might need silk touch for this, but I mean, this is one way to get hardened glass. Yeah, you do. I'll come back later for it with silk touch, I guess. But perhaps more interestingly, well, maybe not interesting anymore, but at one point this would have been very interesting. You can get gelid cryothium from here. You don't have to actually go make it. I needed that for like my gassy chicken, and it took quite a while. Anyways, it's like a frozen dungeon, I guess. I'm gonna clear this out, loot the chest, see what goodies we get. I think I'm just about done looting. The looting part took like 3 times as long as clearing out the mobs. I don't see any more chests. So let's see how we did. Now there were a couple pieces of dungeon only loot that I found. There was a, let's see, alchemical bag. This is just like a very large satchel. It's significantly larger than my satchel. I don't think it can be enchanted though, but I mean I'll use it. Eventually, if I get a better enchant and a larger satchel, I think the satchel can get bigger, but whatever, the difference is negligible. And the real big piece of loot though is, aha, this blueprint here, the gem refiner. So the gem refiner is the blueprint that can, or is a multi-block that can upgrade gems to their next higher quality version. Normally you can only downgrade gems. So if you want high quality gems, you have to like sift them. But I don't know how much we'll actually need it, but it's dungeon only loot. So besides that, I don't know, a bunch of stuff in here. None of it really caught my eye. Sigils of magnetism, Sophie Jewel. I'll give it a once over, see if there's anything like awesome, but nothing really caught my eye. I guess I'll open these Thaumcraft treasures, see what's inside. Normally these are just like pieces of gold. Yeah, golden potions. Meh. Alright, there was one more thing. There were 4 overgrowth seeds. Do these have a crafting recipe in this pack? Doesn't look like it. These can be used to improve the speed at which Botania flowers function. It's not so useful for what we have now because our flowers are mostly limited by how long the game of life takes, but it'll be useful for later flowers. Anyways, let's get out of here. Let's get to the meat of things today. That is HV. So I've made some stainless steel. I thought I made more than that, but apparently not. Nope, I guess that's all I've made. We're going to need a lot, so I guess our ore processing stand is finished, so let's start cooking up more. But what I have here I'll turn into plates because that's how you make HV machine chassis. 9 more stacks of stainless steel. So this will take it, a couple minutes per ingot, but that's alright. Let's make our first stainless steel machine chassis. My bad, they're called machine casings. Anyways, 3 of these. Is that a quest? No, I think we have to turn them into hulls for the quest. 1x gold cable, huh? Alright, let me coat a few gold cables in rubber. Alright, this should complete a few quests. There we go. I like these quests because they reward extra chassis. So it's like you make your first couple and then you get a bunch more. Oh no, this one doesn't. I've been lied to. All these other ones previously have. Haven't they? Oh, this was, yeah, like this one, no? Maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, like the MV machine hull one rewards hulls. Oh well. Anyways, the next thing we need to do is make motors and processors. However, I think we've gotten to the point where I really don't want to make these by hand. And we have a perfectly good logistics system. So why don't I teach the logistics pipe system how to make HV motors and processors? Generally speaking, there are 2 types of crafting recipes. There are crafting ones, that is stuff you do in, your 3x3 crafting grid, and processing recipes, stuff that you do outside of that grid, and typically in machines. We'll start with the stuff that goes in your 3x3 crafting grid, just because that's much easier. So, in logistics pipes, these are crafted with logistics crafting tables. Not terribly surprisingly. To power them, then, they have to be connected to crafting pipes. I suppose you can connect them to a chassis with a crafting card as well, or a crafting module, but it's much cheaper to connect them to crafting pipes. Each table and pipe combination crafts a single recipe. So with that in mind, you're going to need a lot of crafting tables and crafting pipes. A nice little quality of life thing that logistics pipes has for you is crafting sign creator. Basically, you want to click this on every single crafting logistics pipe, and it'll tell you what recipe's in it on the sign. It makes it much easier than having to open every pipe to see what recipe you have encoded in there. Especially when you get to the point where you have, hundreds, I doubt you'll get to thousands, but if you could get to thousands, right? At which point you will literally go insane trying to find a recipe without this. You'll go slightly insane trying to find a recipe with it, mind you. To encode a recipe, you just go into the crafting table. I already encoded the motor here, but you can encode it through JEI. It'll automatically reserve the appropriate slots so that you can't, you can if you do it yourself, but the logistics pipes will not insert the wrong items into these slots. This is to ensure that this inventory never gets fully jammed. And then if at this point you still cannot see the recipe in your crafting table. You see, you don't see HV motors. However, if you then click the crafting logistics pipe with the wrench and hit the import button, it'll import the items that go into here. At which point you can see the recipe, I believe. Yeah, it's the motors, or it's the crafting pipe that actually exposes the recipe to the logistics system. The crafting table itself is just an autocrafter. You're more than welcome to use any other autocrafter in its place. You just don't get stuff like the import function. Anyways, now if I request motors, what it'll say is, you're missing these items, naturally, because I don't have them to make the motor. Now, why did it say I'm missing diamond helmet? What? Let's... Oh, that's probably what I had requested earlier when I hit request. Here we go. So it says you are missing these items. Cool. Just for demonstration purposes, I am taking out our copper wires so that now when I request motors, the error should say not enough of this 4x copper wire, which is what it says. Then what we can do is we can encode the recipe for this copper wire and subsequently the 2x copper wire into here. Come over to this other side, import them. The signs automatically update when you import, which is pretty convenient. I suppose it wouldn't be very useful if it didn't. Then you just have a bunch of outdated signs. Anyways, now when I go request motors, it should go recursively crafting. In fact, it does. It'll go recursively crafting these those copper wires. And here we go. The final product shows up here. So now I have, 30-ish crafting tables set up that we can use to handle the auto crafting of 3x3 crafting recipes. Before I start tackling processing recipes, though, I think I want to teach the logistics pipe system how to auto craft all of its components. So stuff like its pipes and, mostly just its pipes. Because I'm going to need a lot of these crafting logistics pipes, and crafting them by hand is going to take a while. For recipes like this crafting logistics pipe that take a programmer, I typically find if you just keep the programmer in the pipe at all times and then manually remove the programmer from the input, it'll just, it won't send the programmer when it crafts, and the programmer should just stay in there. So let's try that out. Let's order some crafting logistics pipes. I think I only have those 6 FPGAs, so I can only order 6. I'm not going to bother teaching it processing recipes yet, I think. But yeah, they're crafted, and our logistics programmer should still be in here, which it is. Now, what that means is we just have to keep in mind that for every single crafting recipe that uses a programmer, we'll need a unique programmer to leave in the table. For some recipes, like the machine casing, you want it to be a little bit willing to have some, fuzziness in the crafting. In this case, I specifically... Do these look different to you? 2 plates? I feel like one is brighter than the other, right? Anyways, whatever. I guess it's highlighted or something. But for the wrench, I want it to... Oopsies. I want it to use the wrench still, but I want it... Come on, put the wrench down. No, clicking is hard. Alright, so I want it to ignore damage and NBT data on the wrench. So I can put any wrench here. Now, the system won't automatically supply it with a wrench unless I do some other cleverness, which I'm not going to do because one wrench lasts about 1,000,000 machine frames. So now when I import this recipe, whoopsies, I still want to exclude the wrench, and when I go craft it, it should just be willing to still craft those machine frames. So let's see, HV machine casing 2, unless I'm out of stainless steel plates. Let's try that again. And this time I'm ordering to this chassis here so that the finished product will automatically get put back into storage. So HV machine casing, let's even go for 3 of them. And I haven't used this in some time, so I just want to make sure. Yep, it was able to craft, and it understands that it's allowed to use the damaged wrench in place of the undamaged one. Ah, I found the quest that gives me HV machine hulls. Nice. It even gives me circuits too. And a trophy. For the time being, I've just been storing our trophies, but at some point maybe I should set up a room for them. So according to the quest book, the gate to AE autocrafting are the Orbital Miner and Moon, which are both HV, I believe, and Stellar Alloy, which is Killing Withers, which is something we can do right now if we had to. So that means I think we're close enough to AE autocrafting that I'm not going to set up a robust autocrafting system for logistics pipes. I'll keep doing the 3x3 autocrafting, but I'll leave the machines out of it just because a lot of these machines are pretty particular about their inputs, especially stuff like alloy smelter inputs. Let me see if I can find an example. Let's go for just, I don't know, steel of some sort. Right, so here it's an alloy smelter input, and if you these alloy smelters will gladly accept steel in both slots. So if you just jam a bunch of items in here with logistics pipes, even if you have like a buffer chest in between, it's somewhat difficult. It's not impossible, but it's somewhat difficult to keep these recipes clean, especially if multiple recipes start going towards the same alloy smelter. Whereas applied energistics has blocking mode and stuff, which handles it far more elegantly. So given that, I'll just keep stuff that requires machines, I'll keep crafting by hand, and I'll keep doing what I've been doing before, which is batch crafting. So if I need steel, if I need 10 pieces of steel, I'll craft 500 pieces of steel, right? That's what I'm doing for stuff like copper wires that I use a lot, or really anything I use a lot. Anyways, let's go make the other 36 motors, because the quest book encourages us to make them 40 at a time, which I think is a good idea. So I need a couple more steel rods. In all these cases, instead of just making, the 2 and the 14, I'll make 100 or more. Let's try this again. So request. All right, they've been requested. Now I installed a upgrade in here, the crafting monitor upgrade. That adds this tab here when you have active crafting upgrades or active crafting tasks, and it shows you like what's going on. It can be a little hard to tell, but it's basically saying it's crafting these copper wires right now, and eventually it'll make my motors and send them to me. Pretty cool looking thing. I guess it's the same UI as like the achievements tab, isn't it? But so it's this is how you monitor the status of your crafting tasks. With motors done, the next step then should be circuits. So there are 2 circuits that are, I guess, equivalent HV circuits. They're like the circuit advanced. The processor assembly is the more expensive one because it has to be upgraded from integrated processors. Yeah, and then the cheaper one is a nano processor. However, this requires, first of all, you have to have HV infrastructure to make it, but it requires epoxy, nano CPUs, which take raw carbon fibers, and among other things. So we're going to start with the processor assembly. Now, looking at this, I think the only thing we have to make are RAM and small coils. Everything else we already have. Coils are very easy. I think it's just made in an assembler with steel and copper wire, and you get like 30,000 of them. Or zinc. Can you do steel, zinc, ferrite, and annealed copper gives you even more? I'll see about that. But RAM is also made similarly to how we did CPUs before. You make the wafers, you etch the wafers, and then you cut them. I wonder, can I make the better silicon boules yet? I guess wafers can only be made from monocrystalline silicon boules. All right. Let me see. This is a step. Glowstone dope wafers make 4 times as many wafers per. You get 4 times as many RAM wafers per regular wafer, and I think you get more wafers per boule. But this takes HV and a higher temperature to make. All right. So, anyways, I'm gonna craft some RAM and coils then. I didn't realize you get 32 pieces of RAM per wafer, so each silicon boule becomes like 8 stacks of RAM. So I have a lot of RAM. I suppose if you want some, I can put it on the internet and you can go download it. Anyways, I think that means I can just grab everything and we can put together our processor assemblies. I also have like 1.5 billion coils being made. I decided to make them out as steel bolts in the end because, I mean, you get 8 steel bolts per steel ingot, so this is probably enough coils to last, hopefully, the playthrough, likely most of the playthrough. Our assemblers here is just finishing up the last few of these coils, and it should move on to processors. And started. I guess these are a little slow, but I have enough materials here to make 1 stack of processor assemblies. All these crafts, let's think about what we want to do next. I think we're a little low on power because I've noticed some of our machines here start whining that they ran out of power during an operation. I think that's because, we have some machines that aren't running 100% uptime, but when this blast furnace specifically is running, it's drawing 4 amps of MV, and I only have, how many here? 8 MV producers plus, so I only have 12 amps of MV being produced. So I think we need to produce a bit more power, and we may as well produce it at HV now. So I still have all this biodiesel. Let's see, where is it being stored? All this biodiesel. But now that we have HV machines, we can improve that a little bit. If we take our biodiesel, we can then mix it with tetranitromethane to produce cetane boosted diesel, and we can then, after making cetane boosted diesel, I think we can even take it 1 step further and mix it with liquid Starlight and lithium to get infused Nitro Diesel, and that's the good stuff, right? This stuff, oh no, that's IV. Never mind. We can't go past infused Nitro Diesel yet. But the diesel generator gets almost 1,000 EU per millibucket of infused nitro diesel. So let's work on setting up the machines to get to that point. The first step in this process is to make tetranitromethane. Unfortunately, I can't just jam a bunch of nitrogen and methane together. We have to, I think there's 2 options: nitric acid and ethanone, or ethanone and glowstone dust. Seeing as how nitric acid can be made quite easily from, where's the one I want to use? This one. Water, oxygen, nitrogen, and more oxygen, right? Because this is just oxygen and nitrogen. Seeing as how we can quite easily make nitric acid, I think I'm going to use that instead of glowstone, because we can't, glowstone requires actually doing something to get. So that just leaves the ethanone. Now, this one's a bit trickier. I haven't quite figured out how I want to do it yet, but it looks like the easiest is probably sulfuric acid plus acetic acid. That produces ethanone and dilute sulfuric acid. There's a couple other ways. We can get it from acetone, and I guess that's about it. Is there an easy way to get acetone? Oxygen and cumin. Calcium and acetic acid? Yeah, I don't know. Let me look through some recipes for a bit. So here's the process I ended up settling for. Step 1, make acetic acid out of methanol and carbon monoxide. Both of those are products that I was already producing for my diesel production. I think hydrogen production might be my bottleneck here. I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, that produces acetic acid. Then we produce sulfuric acid with sulfur and water. Combine that with acetic acid to produce ethanone. Then I combine separately hydrogen and nitrogen and oxygen to produce nitric oxide or nitrous oxide. what's it called? Let's see if we can catch it as it shows up. I forget, but anyway, it's nitrogen, oxygen, and then you combine that with more oxygen and water. It's a bunch of gas products. Ultimately, that produces nitric acid. Anyways, chemistry continues. Then over here, using an HV chemical reactor, I combine our nitric acid with our ethanone to produce tetranitromethane, and then this produces a water byproduct that I throw out. So, with tetranitromethane, let's mix that with our diesel in a HV mixer to produce cetane boosted diesel, right? I think, yeah, this requires at least an HV mixer. For the next step, we have to dramatically improve our Starlight production. So I went from 4 light wells up to, 10. If we need more, it's easy enough to add more. It's just a little crowded here. I'll probably move my pure daisies and turn this whole block here into Starlight production, if this isn't enough. And if we need to add more chickens, that's also pretty easy. I'm pretty sure one chicken can support like 1,000 light wells though. Anyways, so that produces a Starlight, and then the lithium dust that we need, the tiny piles of it, come from our brine refinery here. Right, when we centrifuge brine, we get a liquid lithium, which we can refine into solid lithium, tiny lithium pieces in a centrifuge. Anyways, so that produces the lithium and brine, so then we just have to put it together. The lithium and the Starlight. I transfer because the Starlight comes from so far away, I've transferred over our logistics pipe network. So liquid Starlight for there, and then an active supplier to send our lithium dust. And is the Starlight not making it here? Oh, it's this thing. The logistics pipes doesn't seem to like to insert the front face of machines for some reason. Couldn't tell you why. But I think if I just move this over to this side. So fluids can, there is no module version of a fluid supplier, or provider rather, so I have to use the block version, which is why I have to use a second side of the machine. Anyways, Starlight. It can be any amount really, but I'll set this all the way up to 64 buckets. Click, click, and Starlight should be going in here now. Yeah, so next time a bucket of Starlight gets made. There it comes. And in we go. There we go. Yeah, I don't know why. Oh, I guess it's not even setting full buckets. Is that what partial means? I don't know. Anyways, once we get enough Starlight, this will start producing, what is this? Infused Nitro Diesel. It takes 5 buckets for every 10 buckets of cetane. Alright, we'll be back once we have a bit more Starlight. Alright, our Starlight is flowing in here now, and I just missed it, but we now have our first 10 buckets of Infused Nitro Diesel. So now I'm just going to set up another tank to hold this, and then route this over to our diesel generators instead of biodiesel. I've made it so that I'm no longer feeding biodiesel into these, however they still have their internal buffers, but when their internal buffers run out, like this one is just about to, they don't swap over cleanly, do they? Because if there's an odd amount left over, they never burn it. Alright, I guess I do have to break them then. I was hoping to avoid this step, but it's no big deal. I can break it and just replace it. Basically, the purple channel is my fuel channel, and now I only have infused nitro diesel on the fuel channel. So, switching them over to nitro diesel won't make them actually produce any more power, but it'll make them consume less fuel to produce the same amount of power, which means I can more easily just, in fact, right now I'll go do it. I'll go add like another 5 or 6 HV diesel generators, each one producing 512 EU a tick. And 8 total turbo diesel generators for 8 amps of HV, or like 4,000 EU a tick peak. Most of these aren't running right now because we don't have that much energy demand in our base quite yet, but we'll grow into it very quickly, and in fact we'll grow past it and have to scale it pretty quickly. But much like how these 8 MV diesels are somewhat obsolete, these HV diesels will last us about 1 era, at which point they will also become somewhat obsolete. Anyways, end result of all that is a lot more ender fluid conduits and a lot more chemical reactors. get used to it. There's going to be a lot of chemical reactors in this pack. I'm not sure if I showed you, but the way I'm doing all of my fluid transport with these ender fluid conduits is all on one channel. Well, okay, so I'm using actually two channels, brown and blue. The brown channel is for every fluid. Every fluid goes on the brown channel, and I am filtering on every insertion. And blue channel is for when processes produce multiple outputs, like this one produces ethanone and water or something. I extract on blue to specifically say, store ethanone, trash water. And then I extract ethanone on brown. So once again, every fluid is available on brown. So if I need access to any fluid that's on this line on a new chemical reactor, I just plop it down, plop a ender fluid conduit on it, and just filter and say, I want specifically these two chemicals in this reactor. Makes it very easy to scale these systems out. Anyways, now that we have improved power, let's see about improving circuit production. So as I mentioned before, right now we're making these processor assemblies, but the nano processors are better. We can directly make them. However, that requires two things, epoxy and nano CPUs. So let's look at those. Epoxy is probably the easier of the two, so we'll start there. That's made from epoxy resin sheets, which are solidified epoxy resin. So let's bookmark that. And this is made in a chemical reactor with sodium let's see, which one of these will I do? I'll do the this one, the naphtha version. Nitrogen dioxide, naphtha, and epichlorohydrin. All right, so the nitrogen dioxide we're already making and epichlorohydrin we're already making. That just leaves naphtha. What is the easiest way then to make naphtha? There are, I think, two reasonable options. You either pump oil, refine it down into naphtha and whatever else, or you can distill one of these. Here it is. You can distill empowered oil to get diesel, sulfuric naphtha, and sulfuric gas, from which, you can turn the diesel into fuel if you so desire, but you can turn the naphtha into epoxy resin, and the sulfuric gas, you probably could just throw it away, honestly. I think you can turn that into refinery gas, which you can either burn or further refine, but I'm pretty sure none of these are particularly interesting. Yeah, it produces methane or methane, hydrogen, and helium, whatever. So I think I'm going to go that route. Empowered oil is made in a mixer with crystallized oil and canola. This is basically just a lot of canola. So empowered canola, I guess we have to automate infinity dust for this. Okay, let's do that next then. It's basically infinity dust with a lot of canola byproducts. All right, bear with me here for a little bit. So the way to automate infinity dust is to fluid solidifier with liquid nightmares. This is made from a light well with grains of infinity. I suppose you could do drops of evil too, but I think it's easier to do grains of infinity, which are dropped when you spawn mobs with infinity dust. All right, so that means we just have to get this loop going. Now, how do you spawn mobs with infinity dust? Mechanical user is the only thing that catches my eye. All the other similar type right clickers, I couldn't find. So maybe they're disabled, maybe I missed them, I don't know. But mechanical user, to make it, we need stone burnt, which needs pyrotheum dust. All right, that's not bad. However, the mechanical user, no matter what you do, uses grid power. And the only mill that's enabled in this pack is the creative mill. All right, I can get behind that. However, the creative mill requires another star lens, unstable nuggets, and we can't use the ingot version, right? Because we make this, it explodes when it leaves the table, but we have to get it to an assembler, which means we have to make the stable version, which means we have to go the long way and blast furnace it, which is apparently going to take an extra nether star. So we're going to need a couple nether stars, because this also uses a nether star lens, and unstable mana. Unstable mana is made in in any mixer with ethanol, mana, redstone, and a simple power catalyst, which needs an HV mixer. Oh, I'm losing my breath here. With life essence, nether wart, and redstone. This, I think, is the bottom of our rabbit hole. So now that we've looked down our rabbit hole and know how deep it is, let's dive in. Well, alright, right off the bat, we have a problem. The recipe for the simple power catalyst doesn't seem to work. So it's 5 buckets of Blood Magic Life Essence, 10 Netherwort, that is vanilla Netherwort, and 10 vanilla Redstone. I have well more than that. I mean, I guess I can try exact amounts. The recipe tier is HV, so that is Advanced Mixer 2 or better. This is an Advanced Mixer 2, and it definitely has its full energy buffer. It's connected right up to my HV energy grid. Let me try do it with exact values, maybe. Nope, that still doesn't do it. I mean, I guess I could use the fallback recipe. It's tier 2, but does that mean it needs minimum a tier 4 orb? No, it needs a minimum tier 2 orb, right? I guess I can do the fallback recipe. This was going to be easier, but I guess it just doesn't work. Oh well. I figured it out. It's one of those sneaky recipes. There's a piece of toluene here. So is it easier to make toluene, or is it easier to... It's probably easier to use the blood magic recipe at this point. Toluene is like a 7-step recipe, right? We need fluid toluene, which is distilling... Yeah, which is only come from the distillation tower of stuff. Let's not. Alright. There's no secret recipes here, so let's make simple power catalysts the alchemy way. Unless the alchemy table is awful. No, let's do this. Let's make a upgraded blood orb. The magician blood orb takes 12.5k LP, and our altar only holds 10k. However, the fact that we're producing LP during this process, especially, you know, if I accelerate it, we're producing a lot of LP during this process, should mean that we can produce the blood orb without needing to add any runes to our altar. And there we go. Magician's blood orb. I'm going to make 2. Well, actually, I should let the thing fill up first. 1 will be for crafting and 1 to fill our life network. Use the alchemy table. Just put your blood orb here. This is what provides the power for it effectively. And your input ingredients in any of the slots. You can also left click them to lock them if you want. That's more useful for automation. Anyways, here are simple power catalysts. Now we're back at our good old friend the mixer. Mana, ethanol, redstone, and simple power catalyst makes our first little bit of unstable mana. We need 10 buckets of it for the creative mill, and it's used for a bunch of other things too, but I think we're not quite going to automate it yet. Oh boy, TerraSteel. Ah, I guess you don't even make TerraSteel on the TerraSteel plate. Wait, we can make this now. Interesting. I wonder, you can make TerraSteel armor? Whatever, I'm not going to bother with it right now, but it is interesting that we can make TerraSteel already. Goodbye, Nether Star. Become dust. Alright, so there's our Nether Star dust, make a tiny pile. I don't know why the pyrotheum isn't burning me. I guess maybe once you reach a certain level of fire protection, you don't care about hot stuff anymore. I wish there was a heavy, something that makes you not care about light stuff. Because floating away is far more annoying. Anyways, what do I have to do to turn this into nuggets? It's blast furnace HV. Alright, so let's put all our pyrotheum into here. I'm going for exactly 9 buckets. It's unfortunate that it uses it by buckets because you make pyrotheum 144 millibuckets at a time. So you'll always have leftovers. Alas. Anyways, I'm gonna stop making stainless steel for just 1 second to let it start making our nuggets. And these take just about a minute each. That's not bad. So here's a crafting mechanic I've never done before. I need to charge a sun crystal, and I guess that's done literally by throwing it on the ground. I don't know how long I have to wait. Not very long, apparently. So putting all of this together, we have 10 buckets of our mana, a unstable stable ingot, and a lens with that. That should... oh, why is it not starting? Should be making a creative mill. Oh, it's in an assembler, not a... shoot. I can't get mana out of this hatch is part of the problem, so I guess those 10 buckets of mana live there now. I'll use it to make, whatchamacallit, TerraSteel later, I guess. Let's head over to an assembler and try this again. So into the assembler go these inputs. And I worked hard to put exactly 10 buckets in there because I knew I couldn't take the extra out. And here I can just take the excess out. Anyways, that's a creative mill. So this just lets us, do things that have grid power. Place for your creative mill is on top of your fridge. I like how the quest reward for the creative mill is a dragon egg mill. That seems, I won't complain. Now that we can make these mechanical users, the rest of this farm is pretty simple. There's a dark room. The mechanical user clicks the dust in here, which will eventually cause mobs to spawn. The mobs should be pushed with fans into spikes where they die, and then I just need something to pick up the drops there, but our goal mostly is to get those pieces of ender dust. Nothing else here really matters. I'm slightly concerned about those explosions, but as long as the blocks don't break, we'll be fine, right? Once we have the grains of infinity dropping, it's just a matter of melting them down and then re-solidifying them as nuggets, or in other words, infinity dust. And this cycle is positive, so for each piece of infinity dust you spend spawning mobs, you get more than one piece of infinity dust back. It's also a nice chance for us to use this specter coil generator thingy. It produces 128 RF a tick, which really isn't enough to power anything on its own, except a single LV machine. So, yeah, we got to put it to use there. Anyways, that just powers our fluid solidifier, and then from there they get distributed between the mechanical user and the cache. It prioritizes the user, but once this gets filled up, then the cache will start filling with infinity dust. Unfortunately, that looks like all the time we have for today. So we'll have to wrap things up here. We'll come back next time and keep going down our oil canola rabbit hole. See where it leads us. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.